Hello, Internet. Welcome back to Perfect Fair Day. We thought we'd try a different format this week. Uh, Maybe, hopefully, something a little more comfort, a little more comfortable, and we can address y'all. Or, I don't know, we're just going to have a natural conversation, I feel like.
Yeah, so we changed our setup a little bit to kind of make it where me and Jeremiah are actually talking to each other, and not to a screen in front of us, and because it's a lot, you know, uh, less natural when we're just staring at a screen and stuff. So it's a little bit more difficult for us to have our natural conversations, and we felt like we were kind of missing out on quite a bit when we did that. Of course, as always, my name is George Merchant, and this is Perfect Faraday. And hopefully, we can have some informative subject matter that we can talk about today, but in a more natural conversation. And me and Jeremiah here would like to spend time, looking at things through the perspective of what we feel is the unheard voices, through a blue collar perspective. I don't feel like our voices are really being heard nowadays, and I don't really feel like people are speaking for us. I feel like that's where a lot of the strife that we're seeing today is like coming from. Uh, Today, I think we're going to go into a few different subjects that I like, but if the conversation steers down a certain direction or another, then we'll just go ahead and carry it on that down that conversation. So, was there anything that you wanted to get started on, or?
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and start on comedy. I'll just give you a short little Oxford Dictionary definition.
Oh, we gotta have dictionary definitions, huh?
Professional entertainment consisting of jokes and satirical sketches intended to make an audience laugh. So there you go. Like, what do you do with that? What do you think? What do you think comedy has become in this day and age, George?
Um, I have to well, okay. So you gave us the dictionary definition. I can respect that, but I personally, for me, comedy has always been something that lessens tension around subject matters that might be stressful or strenuous. All growing up, comedy making people laugh. I was a class clown. That was pretty much the only thing I really ever got in trouble for, was like being a class clown,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I was known for. And I like being a class clown. I like making people laugh. I usually handle stress and stressful situations with comedy. A lot of being in the military, a lot of military members, that's how they handle it. It usually ends up with some pretty dark humor,
Yeah.
you can imagine. But um, it's what I see today. What comedy is today. Is that what you asked me? You asked me if what comedy was today,
Yeah. Or how do you feel like?
what
I
it
don't know. I'm definitely in the same boat as you. I've always used comedy to like lighten up the mood, or I don't know. I'm a nervous person sometimes. Maybe that shows on camera, but I think levity can definitely bring up the
hell yeah,
you know
yeah,
change the mood.
yeah.
But I think at a larger scale, and it's funny because I looked it up earlier. I was like, what does ultimately like comedy mean like as a whole? And it's exactly like how I viewed it. But I'm going to be a little bookworm here today. But the Encyclopedia Britannica basically cites Aristotle as the inventor of comedy. I'm sure Ugg the caveman probably like made a joke about the whatever he happened to the prey he killed to but
Well, or they like slung poo at each other
yeah,
and then thought it
exactly.
was really funny and
So anyway, yeah, like so Aristotle, fourth century BC. So what, like 2,800 years ago, brought comedy to the masses, like primarily concerning with human social behavior rather than like in a private setting. Although I'm sure there was like humor as far as that goes, but it was we use it as a function for corrective, comedic artists' purpose is to hold a mirror up to society and reflect the follies and the vices in hopes that they will, as a result, be mended. So I thought that was interesting because that's exactly in my mind. I was like, I think that's the overarching scope of comedy, you know. So I'm just curious, like, how you feel that plays out in today's society, or how people view, comedy. Because I feel like people kind of lost the true definition of comedy as a whole. I don't. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, I believe that's a function of comedy. I don't believe it's the sole function of
No.
comedy. I do believe that like when we laugh, it helps us kind of bond and it humanizes the other person a lot more. Because there's self-deprecating comedy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like you kind of make fun of yourself a little bit, or a situation where you made a poor choice or did something stupid, or
Yeah.
and you
That's a lot
everybody
of my
has.
comedy because
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
felt like I don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings per se because there's cruelty, just
yeah,
chiding somebody or being a bully, to make other people laugh, and that's
yeah.
in a in a singular setting. That's not too healthy, but I think when a comedian's standing up on stage calling out like bad behavior, that might be a little something different. It's not necessarily like people like view him as a bully, but maybe he just like sees something in society that like I don't know is taking society in the wrong direction. Like,
Well, I honestly I think that mocking some things can have a positive effect. Ridiculous actions and ridiculing them,
mm,
through comedy, can have a positive effect. But if you're ridiculing something that's good, right, or something that you has like moral value, then maybe there might be a negative, thing to that there. But typically, when that happens, people don't laugh.
yeah,
They don't, because every bit of comedy has to have truth in it.
yeah,
Every bit of comedy has to have like a line of truth. Yes, in comedy there's misdirection. That's actually what one of the things, the science behind comedy is you use misdirection because it's an unexpected sort of result,
yeah.
right? And so, you know, why did the chicken cross the road? Like everybody's, heard, why did the chicken cross the road or
So
something
you say
like
that I was
that.
actually gonna
Yeah.
like say that like
So,
that's like what uh,
but everybody,
elementary school humor.
yeah,
You
yeah,
probably
yeah,
laughed like
yeah, yeah,
I don't know, like hysterically as a child. When you heard that one, but it got old pretty fast.
yeah. And because it lost the magic of the unexpected
Yeah,
is what it is because if I explain beforehand to expect the unexpected, it takes a lot of the magic out of it, and you end up you won't laugh as much.
yeah,
But when you know when you listen to comedians next time when they're doing a bit, and you'll notice that they'll deliver sort of an unexpected thing, but there'll always be some like grounding in truth or something like that. And as they're telling you a story, because it's a storytelling process, as they're telling you the story stuff, and you'll laugh. And some of the things can be like very dark or bitter type of things that we end up laughing about.
mm-hmm.
There's some you've got like the middle school. Let's graduate from the knock knock and why the chicken crossed the road to the middle school where everybody turns into a freaking flaming butthole and starts telling like dead baby jokes and stuff like that,
Yeah,
right? So you have this darkening of humor and stuff like that as kids start to their hormones start coming into play, and
yeah,
they're just I don't know, their personalities are changing and stuff, and one minute they love their mom and dad, the next minute they hate them, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
it's
I I think as we grow up, our humor, or what we find funny, obviously alters. And
Yeah.
depending on what you went through, you might like not be able to laugh, except for it's some of the most darkest stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that would probably be the case for me. Like dad jokes just don't cut it for me anymore. I'm sorry, George, but
Come on, man. You don't like my dad jokes? Oh man.
but oh
They're corny,
yeah,
and they're kind of, but they always have sort of they still have that unexpected element that makes you kind of groan, but you smile a little bit
that's
when
true.
you groan. You know what I
I don't
mean?
know. Every
Just
once in
like,
a while, somebody can sneak in a dad joke that I don't see it coming, and that's funny to me. But most of
yeah,
them I can predict.
yeah,
Very very little new. It seems new to me. I have to find other ways to
yeah,
like
yeah. I
stay
remember.
interested in.
Yeah, I
Looking
remember.
toward the future. I guess.
Yeah, and being a class clown and everything, I remember some of the the good lines that I laid down here and there that just would split sides. And I remember coming home from it, it was after it was after boot camp. It was after I'd gone to my A school and power school in the military, nuclear power school, and I visited home. Oh, and prototype. And sorry for people that don't understand that, there's a bunch of schooling in that. And I came home on leave, and I was visiting my parents for Christmas, and it was a really good time and everything. And we were, of course, getting along great. I, like most young men, I left home kind of angry, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but
In my case, my parents just left me. They're like, here you go.
yeah, yeah, and I knew I needed to strike out on my own. I knew I needed to make a life for myself. And so my dad didn't raise a fool, and he didn't raise a sheep, and he told me to get out there and make something of myself. And so I had to figure it out for myself. But I'm coming home, and this anger's gone now, though. That initial sort of, I got to get out there, and I love my parents. I come in, and I'm sitting in the living room with my mom and my dad, and um, now I don't I I try not to curse or use bad words or get too crass around my parents, stuff like that. I was raised in a good Christian home and everything, and
So yeah, I guess comedy. You should know your audience.
yeah,
Right?
know your audience, right? But again, push the envelope.
Yeah,
Be
exactly.
be edgy,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Be edgy. So when I say sometimes if you overuse it, like you're just dropping f bombs all the time and stuff like that, it loses the value, the shock value of it,
Yeah.
and you just become sort of like just like a gnarly whatever. And everybody's tolerance is different, and language has definitely shifted between, like, people curse a lot more than when we were kids, for sure,
Yeah.
just in public settings. But so I was thanking my parents. I said, I really do appreciate how you raised me, especially after going to boot camp, being around a bunch of other people, seeing just how ill prepared they were for life emotionally and everything like that. I thanked them, and I said, you know what, Dad, I really want to thank you for the way that you raised me. I really appreciate the way you raised me. I know there were times that I got under your skin and on your nerves, and you just thought to yourself, damn, he should have been a blowjob. My mom, she she tried not to laugh. My dad was dying laughing. He's splitting, unexpected, sort of, because I'm thanking them, and it's sincere, and it was sincere.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'd come home and told them, like, they did a good job. I knew I'd left angry, and comedy can be like this sort of healing sort of tool, right?
Yeah.
And so that's I think comedy has a lot of like a lot of purpose and a lot of use. I love laughing. I love laughter. I like to put funny stuff on that I've seen way too many times that makes my wife laugh. Like, she will watch anything with Will Ferrell in it 100 times. When Christmas comes around, it's Elf, and I have to keep hearing Santa. like it's multiple times a day. And,
So do you stop laughing at that after a while, or
um,
you know?
no, no, I don't necessarily find it funny anymore. Like I'm not like laughing, ha, hilarious, but the joy that it brings her,
Yeah.
and continues to bring her.
Well, find for myself, like there's some things like I maybe already watched and didn't find as funny, but when you're in a group, like the
Yeah,
energy of the group, like kind of makes you laugh, and I don't think it's just that you're, you know,
I think that's where a
trying to
lot of
feel like you fit in, but maybe it is. Like I don't know what the
yeah,
psychoses is there, but like I've definitely like fallen into that myself. Where I know in a private setting I wouldn't think something was funny, but like when you're with people, stuff just seems funny. Like a good example is what is that movie Napoleon Dynamite and Nacho Libre. I actually used to. The director of that was one of my customers when I worked in
oh,
retail in Salt Lake. Yeah, because he lived in Park City, so it was actually kind of cool. Like he came in one day and he had printed a bunch of pictures of John Heater, which is the main character in Napoleon Dynamite, and I was like, man, you must really love Napoleon Dynamite. And he just looked at me with a straight face. He was like, yeah, I guess you could say that. I'm the writer and director. And I thought he was like full of shit. I'm like, whatever, man. But, because I gave him his photos, his name was on there, and I IMDb'd him and Jared Hess. Like, lo and behold, like, he had a long beard. He looked like
like a hippie or something.
yeah. He looked
Oh
like your
man.
dad when were younger. He just like,
Oh, mountain man.
yeah.
No man. I've always find comedy to be very very therapeutic. I think that it helps, but yeah, you know, when you going back to what you were just saying that about the energy in the group and stuff. I think that's where a lot of the inside jokes are born and stuff like that. And here in the shop, there's a lot of running sort of like inside jokes that people find hilarious, but not anybody on the outside wouldn't find funny at all. I mean, because it's not, because they haven't observed it. They're not part of the narrative.
Mm.
They don't, they don't get the joke and everything because they don't have all of the pieces, to the puzzle.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I think what worries me and what bothers me is that I feel like maybe there's like maybe even it's like a majority. I don't know. How do you pull these sort of things? I feel like there's a large portion of, the population that's like in on the joke, right? And, laughs and gets why certain things are funny. And then I feel like there's probably a smaller segment of the population that feels like it's an attack,
Yeah.
you know? And you have comedians that tell edgy stuff. That's what they do. They push the envelope. They say edgy things that are, and they're funny. They're not attacking anybody. They're not, comedians want to make people laugh. Do you think that they want to get people mad at them or anything? No, no, no. What it is they want to get them right there close to the edge. It's like people that are telling like racial jokes, or they're anybody telling any joke that's nowadays a protected class or anything like that. A lot of the jokes that I've heard over the years, as long enough as they're not like slung at somebody as an attack, I feel are absolutely hilarious. My favorite comedian of all time is David Chappelle. I think
Mm-hmm.
he's a comedic genius. I think he's actually probably one of the most intelligent, funniest men alive. Uh, I'm sure people attack me for that belief. But if you stop and look at his stuff in context and what's going on, he's a deeply funny guy. And when his show, got canceled or he walked away from it, however that went down, I was
You mean like the
disappointed.
Dave Chappelle show
The
back
Dave
in the
Chappelle show, yeah.
2000s or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. Some people that listening might be a little too
I'm
young
not
to
entirely
realize
sure he
this.
was canceled. I just think that fell through because I can't remember who carried it initially. I think it had something to do with
Well,
they didn't want to.
he walked away.
Yeah,
There was some fighting going on.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
the monetary part of it, like the rights for it, because I know once Netflix
Yeah.
picked up his show, like he wasn't getting paid for it, and they actually took it off until he's situated, getting the rights to actually get
Yeah.
paid for it to being on there,
Yeah.
which is one of the few recent things Netflix has done where I'm like, Netflix, I feel like isn't just necessarily pandering to one side or another. I'm not saying that I I believe in every decision they made, and obviously a lot of people don't. They've lost a lot of subscribers,
Yeah.
but that is an interesting thing I noticed as far as that situation.
I I honestly, two different situations, right?
Yeah.
The Chappelle show was in the past, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't canceled. The show
Yeah,
wasn't
but
canceled.
his
because
actual
of
show was like a more recent thing before
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of the
yeah,
more
yeah.
recent things.
Yeah, but the Chappelle show that he walked away from like $50 million or whatever. That was a different situation, and really he fell back in love with comedy again, and the show was genius. The show was absolutely genius, and you know, his comedy was absolutely hilarious. I challenge anybody to go back and watch the Dave Chappelle show and not laugh their
Yeah.
butt off.
I guess as far as comedy, what we find funny, I've definitely like a lot of stand-ups, like John Mulaney,
Mm-hmm.
Bill Burr. I'm gonna say it. I know again that might be something that gets me canceled, but I don't care. Like uh, Louis C.K. I guess he's out of comedy. He's trying to get back in. I don't approve of what he did outside of comedy, but his comedy was dark. But I always felt like he would say the most horrible thing and bring it back around. And some of my friends that were like, "Oh, he's a horrible person. He has these thoughts." I'm like, "Have you ever actually watched his comedy?" And
Yeah.
then when they did, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like." He says sex with kids. Like, who the hell would say that, But I can't remember how he brought that back around. But it was just like, he did it, like, in a way where you're like, wow, okay. You know?
Well, I mean,
But then you have skit comedy like Key and Peele. And, oh my gosh, like, Key and Peele is, like, genius. And Mad TV back in the day. SNL, when it was good. And when it is good, is good. But I feel like SNL has become just, like, so one-sidedly political. Whereas they used to just... jab at both sides, right?
Yeah, that's when did comedy become unfunny? When did it stop being funny? And I think that it stopped being funny when it started becoming preachy, right?
Yeah.
Like in the past, the more I know we try to avoid being too political on here and stuff like that, but there's truths in the stuff where we can't really avoid it. So the more right wing type stuff, like fundamental, Christian stuff, that kind of thing. I actually heard a few Christian comedians that were absolutely hilarious. They were absolutely hilarious, but they were the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of it was really cringy. It
Mhm.
just because it wasn't comedy, it was really like preachy.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to today, and now all of your late night shows that used to be funny. Most of SNL's not funny anymore.
Gosh, Steve Colbert, I loved it.
Steve Colbert, yeah,
when he was
yeah.
attacking
I
the
was trying to
right,
remember his name.
But now, like,
Yeah.
it's not even it was a very funny, like,
Mhm.
satire, like true satire of the right, and like their shortcomings,
Oh,
But
yeah.
now it's just like, oh, Orange Man bad, oh, I got some dancing, needles or whatever. Like, you look at it, you're like, who are you, like, pandering to? Like, I don't know. Maybe, do you think it's, like, a younger audience that finds, like, a different type of humor than what we do?
That's possible. I mean, I think that could be possible. They could be like doing some, polling and saying, all these, clapping seals and stuff like that. I have noticed that the comedy, and I'm not picking on the younger generation because I actually think that the younger generation, I've got a lot of hope for them and stuff. But it seems like their comedy is much more caveman like.
Yeah.
they're like 15-second TikToks and everything like that literally are just like annoying noises and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I know there's people that find that stuff like really hilarious and everything. It's not witty, right? It's
Yeah.
not witty. It's not edgy. It's not anything. It's just random, loud.
I read a piece on, I don't know, what is it considered? Gen Z? Is it like humor?
Yeah.
Some of it made sense to me, but some of it didn't. Yeah, like the loud noise is like the unexpected thing in it or whatever. Like it'll be like this peaceful thing and then like a loud noise or something. And I was like, I guess I could see that. Like I said, my idea of comedy has evolved over time as I got older. Like stuff stopped being as funny, but
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah. So it should be interesting to see like when they're older, like how the comedy evolves.
when I was in high school, Dumb and Dumber to me was hilarious.
Yeah, well, the first Dumb and Dumber is still a classic, but the two attempts at a sequel since
We
were
don't
very like
they don't exist. We don't refer to those.
exactly.
They don't exist, man. We'll just stick with there was only ever one Dumb and Dumber, man.
Well, the one with the actual original actors in it that was a sequel. It felt too much like they were like Hollywood loves to do, just try to recreate something that worked.
Yeah.
Like point for point.
Oh, come on, that's what they do now, right?
Yeah.
It's just like,
I'm
just gonna keep recreating.
I don't know. Maybe they thought they could reach out to a younger crowd and catch some of the people that thought the first one was funny. But I think there was like one or two scenes that got a giggle, but to maybe a slight guffaw out of me. But I was like, oh, what
guffaw.
are you doing?
A guffaw. We're honored that you gave us a guffaw. But yeah, Hollywood now they try to photocopy and then put like a woke spin on it.
Yeah.
And I think that they're misreading the audience. I feel like for example, like for our show here and stuff, I feel like the voiceless, people in America, that really don't have a voice in a lot of these things. I think they're missing their audience. And I believe that's why you see a lot of the collapse of some of these entertainers and why their ratings are so low. I mourn the loss of the old Colbert Show. I thought it was very funny. And I would say, I'm a guy that I was registered Republican in the past, libertarian now, and I definitely, lean conservative in many ways, and I still found it absolutely hilarious. It wasn't, making fun of like one group or another just because if I'm part of that group. If your bit's funny, your bit's funny.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Right. And because I've seen people make fun of like gun ownership or something like that, and if they do the bit right, it's absolutely hilarious. But if it's just this sort of preachy thing, like the good redneck gun owners, bunch of stupid morons,
Yeah.
it's like, what's funny about that? Where's the comedy? Where's the wit?
Well, and it's completely disingenuous to just pick at one side. Like there's always been like idiots on both sides of the aisle. Like I said, SNL was like a good example. Like when then they're a lot better. They would jab at both sides, and it was like freaking hilarious because like political humor, I guess I'm okay with, but like I don't. What do you think? Like, when do you think comedy goes too far, though? Like, is there a point, Because in my mind, I would say very harshly singling out a group without bringing it back around, like equality, like I think that's where it breaks down. And I think, dick jokes and vagina jokes and sex jokes, like, they played out, but I don't think,
well,
like...
The sexual jokes are usually it's usually a younger comedian.
Yeah,
because
male or female.
Yeah, male or female. Yeah, if you watch them, it's usually like a much younger comedian and stuff. And it's probably what they have on their mind quite often, but they don't have any life experience yet.
Yeah. And
when a comedian writes good bits, it's part of who they are. It's like their experience and their lived world, the things that they've lived in, their experiences with the world, what they've observed, and the people they've interacted.
I mean, I'll say something I've noticed because I had a question at one point, and I looked at a bunch of female comedians, and it's not that I'm trying to be misogynist. I was like trying to figure out why they're not funny to me, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's because I'm a man, I don't understand it. And then I looked at the careers. There's not too many like female comedians that get too far. Like maybe they're not given a chance. People don't take them as serious. Just the same as like women's sports. Like which I always thought was unfortunate. Like I go to college when I was going to college, and I would go to the basketball game earlier, and the women's league, there'd be like 5 other people there. The guys showed up and would fill up the stadium. But I think women's comedy is the same. Like they're not given a chance because a lot of the comedians I watched their earlier stuff. They were garbage, but they were given a chance like over time, and they kept after it. Like I really think a lot of female comedians just like aren't given as much of a chance to evolve, and
I would actually, this is probably where me and you disagree. I think that females are in a lot of these spaces are actually given more of a chance. I just believe that there's a lot of give up along the way.
Yeah.
Because
do you think that's a more recent thing, or do you think
recent?
Yeah,
recent.
because
yeah. To be fair,
I'm talking about
past, over time. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go past in the past, I would have to agree with that.
I mean, I take that back. I shouldn't say that I've never had any like female comedians. What was her name? She had a comedy show, a skit comedy. Oh my gosh.
Is it like Sarah Silverman?
No, gosh, no, not Sarah Silverman.
Okay.
Like way back in the day.
Tracy
Ullman.
Tracy Ullman. Okay.
Did you know the Simpsons actually started on Tracy Ullman's show? It was like just a little, short cartoon. Yeah, I love the Tracy Ullman show, and I think she did a lot of the writing. Actually, I think some of the humor that I find funny was probably written by like female writers. So.
Oh yeah,
So maybe it's just like they're not given a chance confidence wise in the past, but now like. The way society is trying to push everything in our face, like I could see, like maybe the point of view you're trying to get across.
Well, the difference for me is that people are being picked and signed for contracts if they check boxes, like equal opportunity type of boxes and stuff like that. And I feel like they're taking some people that are not funny, and they're signing them for deals and letting them run with it, and it's not funny at all. It's not witty, and I wouldn't be the only person saying it. And you look at them and you're just like, why are they still on there and stuff? And I think it's because it's like, oh, it's like this female, and they want to fill the space with the right correct boxes checked or whatever. And you're just sitting there trying to look for the comedy in it. You're trying your best, right? And you're sitting there listening to.
Carol Burnett was another.
Carol Burnett.
Yeah, classic female comedian.
Yeah, and Carol Burnett.
I guess it's more in the stand-up comedian space. I can't really think of a female. Like I started to like oh my gosh, Chelsea Handler. Like some of her stuff was like good, and then she became, I felt like, a little too political. I haven't really watched anything of hers recently. I know she had a show. A weekly show or not a daily show. I think it was a weekly show on Netflix, and I tried to watch some of that, and she just wasn't even trying to be funny. Like I guess maybe she was just too much trying to do an impromptu without planning a little bit, in advance.
Yeah, and I also think that people were trying to take the cheap route in a lot of this stuff, and they jumped on and I think Trump made a lot of people unfunny. I think when people got so angry and hated him so much, I think that during that time period, everybody was just like, well, let's make fun of Trump because that's what everybody's doing. Let's just do that or whatever. And it's like I said, the first couple of jokes are probably, were probably hilarious.
First couple of impressions were hilarious.
Yeah. SNL, when they did the Sarah Huckabee Sanders, impersonation, and then one of the other press secretaries.
The guy.
Yeah, I know. I'm forgetting his name too.
That was hilarious.
But they were genuinely very funny. I mean, I was like, yeah, that's funny. And the first few Trump impersonations were funny.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I guess like my misogynist, not really misogynist.
Your misogyny.
I don't
have toxic masculinity.
I don't have much to do with SNL because it's just not been so funny. But there's, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. The little blonde lady that's on there. I just had her name in my head.
Don't do that to me. I'm not gonna be able to spell out her name. I'm not good with names. Look at me and be like, rescue me. Rescue me.
I'll pass the ball back to you and get back to it in a second because I was trying to make a point, but without her name, it's like
yeah, I'm gonna look that up. But SNL's earlier stuff. I say earlier stuff.
Okay,
They've
sorry.
gone up and down.
Kate McKinnon, she's a national fucking treasure. I'm sorry. Like, she is
Oh, okay.
fucking hilarious. Like,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So, you know,
But she left SNL this season, so I don't know that I'm gonna have anything to worth writing home about in SNL, because they've definitely kind of kept a lot of people on there for far too long.
Yeah.
More recently, that just are not funny. I try like, and it's still a predominantly male cast. You want to talk about inclusivity?
well, I don't think that we need to do. I don't think we need to measure inclusivity or
I don't
whatever
either.
by
But when you
colors and
when you
genders
act
and
like
stuff
you're being inclusive, but you're still not. You're just
to me,
signaling.
it's like show the merit, right? Show the merit. It needs to be like these are the people. They need to do a comedy circuit out there. They need to do the stand up out there, and or prove themselves out, everything like that. That they can consistently, get that laugh and they consistently make it happen and stuff. Because these guys put in a lot of work, man. Comedians put in a lot of work. They're real good ones. Dave Chappelle. I mean, he actually went to a school for the arts when he was younger. I think it was in high school.
Okay.
And was, very, very intelligent, was surrounded by other people, learned about theater, learned about delivering the lines, and he sits down and thinks about what he's doing. He puts in the work for it. And then he goes and plays a bunch of smaller venues where he goes and he tries out different jokes and everything. And some jokes are going to bomb and they're going to fail. And you learn from those failures, and maybe you don't completely throw out the joke, maybe you adjust it a little bit or whatever. But what I feel like is like there's a lot of laziness, and we're not going by the merit, and it's not just in comedy that it's affecting. I think everything, corporate America. I think it's affecting a lot of everything. Government. I think it's affecting everything. But I don't see that turning around super fast. But I do see that turning around now. I believe that's starting to turn around now, and I think that we are going to see. Hopefully, we're going to see some really funny comedians coming up.
Now that I think about it, if I had to rate two shows that were the funniest to me, like skit comedy wise, like consistently across their entire series, it would be Key and Peele and Dave Chappelle. And I'm a white guy over here. Like, I never really looked at it as like, oh, this is a black comedy, because
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't
just
see
the same as good comedians that happen to be any other color. Like, they were able to like pick it like just some of the most ridiculous stuff and not like be too. Preachy, like you said, like
Yeah.
you must believe this, you must believe that, like I'm gonna call out your crappy, stuff, like this Dave Chappelle thing about the Black Klan member, like obviously the Klan is like completely evil, I'm sorry, I don't care if I offend any of you out here, that might be watching this, so you can just go elsewhere and watch it, because I don't have no place for you, but yeah, like I think Dave Chappelle was probably pretty successful at maybe changing some people's minds, like through his humor that might have been like more bigoted.
Well, I think that's like one of those things that comedy that helps to heal, though, is that it helps to heal divide and find common ground. When I was watching I'm with you on the Dave Chappelle show, as far as when I was watching it and stuff like that, I wasn't looking at it as like white or black comedy or anything like that. It was a comedian that was doing very good, and that so happened to be a black man. It's with these things, I think that people get kind of caught up nowadays versus I mean we grew up during the 80s and 90s, so there was like a mixture of things going on in Hollywood, and you know you had the white cop and the black cop team up and everything, and there were in several movies like that were really funny and extremely popular during the time. And you had shows that had diverse casts and stuff. And I think that a lot of us just didn't really kind of look at it that way. We just saw comedy. Whatever made us laugh made us laugh. But now it's like you have to check off certain boxes, and people attack guys like Dave Chappelle and everything because he makes fun of like certain groups. Well, the thing is that he doesn't make fun of certain groups. He makes fun of all the groups. I listened to some of his bits recently, and he makes fun of everybody. That's kind of one of his things, is that he's not, being unfair in how he's, he's not like he's just picking on and just making jokes just about trans people. It's not just the trans people that he's making fun of. It's not just the trans people that he's making jokes about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he makes sure to kind of spread that around pretty good. But then he really got attacked by the woke crowd, and it's like, well, what do you think's going to happen if he's got such a large following and audience and everything, and he gets attacked, and people that support him are, they look at that and they it's going to backfire on this sort of woke mindset, because people are going to be like, no, he's funny, he's laughing, he's not doing anything to hurt anybody. Why are you attacking him like this? Why are you trying to shut down his venues? Why are you trying to get him canceled?
Yeah. I think people conflate comedians, what they choose to pick on, or that as like what they truly like believe. And like, I think a good comedian, you don't actually know they're leaning on any particular thing, because they're able to address both sides of something, and pick apart what
the ridiculousness is.
Yeah, exactly.
In an ideology,
just the same as an actor is able to transform, like a really good actor is able to like transform for a part, but you wouldn't assume that they're necessarily like an evil person in real life, unless they happen to be Alec Baldwin. I think he just gets up there and reads his lines, and like,
yeah, I think some of them kind of aren't good people, aren't great people,
but like I think a really good actor is able to, as crazy as it is, I mean, I think they kind of have to be like narcissistic or whatever, be able to like, I don't know, what do you think about that? Like to be able to change their personality, maybe not narcissistic, but I don't know what pathology that is.
I feel like a lot of actors and actresses are very like empty people. They're just because they're consistently and constantly having to be whoever you tell them they need to be.
Yeah.
They're getting paid to be somebody else, right?
So do you think stand-up comedians fall in that same category?
No, I don't think so. I think that stand-up comedians, though I do believe it takes a little bit of degree of acting and stuff in some cases, because there's body language and the way that you might change your voice to, represent the person from the South, or represent this or whatever, to get, there's a little bit of acting there. But I think that with comedians, is in order to get people laugh, is that you have to believe some of what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some truth to it.
Yeah.
So I could see why people would get like kind of like up in arms or whatever. I could see why they might get a little bit, butthurt about being made fun of or whatever, because there's like a line of truth into it.
Yeah.
But if you get offended by that, maybe, just maybe, you need to step back and go, okay, is there something kind of ridiculous about what it is that I believe about this, or something of that, matter? But instead, the modern groups, the modern, cancel culture and everything like that, they've created their sort of protected classes, and it gets worse and worse every day, as far as you have to pass the purity test or whatever. And it just keeps eating its own, worse and worse and worse every day. But the way that it's going is they are not introspective at all. They don't, it's like ha ha ha, I see what you did there, and whatever, you know what I mean? Because if they were that way, if they were just like, that part of the humor is not my favorite joke or whatever, and they just brushed it off and everything, it would have no power over them. It would have no power over them at all. But because they react the way that they do, the public pushback on them from their reactions are going to be like even greater. Like, people are going to generally despise them more. They're going to generally think of them in a group as it's going to make people more bigoted towards them when they react that way. So Let me go ahead and I'm going to pull up this real
Oh,
quick.
what's that?
I just want to read this out because see what happened was is Dave Chappelle's he was doing a show in Minneapolis like yesterday, and they had to quickly move the venue because there was threats and everything like that. They basically the venue had to bow to the woke mob yet again. So
Okay.
I just want to show this right there. This is from NPR, and this is the statement from First Avenue, the owners of or First Avenue where it was originally supposed to be. The Dave Chappelle show tonight at First Avenue has been canceled and is moving to the Varsity Theater. What does moving it do? He's still going to do a show. To staff artists in our community, we hear you and we are sorry. We know you must hold ourselves to the highest standards, and we know we let you down. We are not just a black box with people in it, and we understand that First Ave is not just a room, but meaningful beyond our walls. The First Avenue team and you have worked hard to make our venues the safest spaces in the country. That right there bothers me. And we will continue with that mission. We believe in diverse voices and the freedom of artistic expression. Do you really when you're canceling somebody you don't agree with? But in honoring that, we lost sight of the impact this would have. We know that there are some who would not agree with this decision. You are welcome to send feedback. Yada, 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 yada. And it's just, to me, it's just one more instance of bowing to it. And it gets under my skin, and I'm just like, don't bow to crybabies. Don't bow to people that are just gonna be like, I don't find that funny. There are plenty of comedians that I don't find funny. There are plenty of comedians that are highly offensive.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
I was going to circle back, probably what you're about to talk to. The question I asked earlier, I don't know if you really answered it, but like, uh, for me, when comedy goes too far, would be Michael Richards, the guy that played Kramer on Seinfeld. Like, obviously, stand-up comedians have to handle hecklers as best as they can. But
yeah,
like when he turned it into racial epitaphs and was attacking the person directly, and there was like no comedy involved in it, that's probably stepping a bit too far. Like there's not a place where you need to just like act like a bigot.
I get you.
I don't know. Like, what would you say? Like, again, I'll just like
I
ask.
get you.
When do you think? In all fairness, you're saying people shouldn't attack comedy, but when do you think comedy like goes too far?
When you're slinging daggers at individuals,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. When you're attacking somebody, or I mean, even like a group where you're just all it is just putting them down. You're not being clever or anything like that. There's not being a joke. You're just
Or no part of your comedy like actually
yeah.
takes what like
You don't take a breather.
you don't make fun of that stereotype and then like build up the person. I think
Yeah.
that's an approach some comedians do.
Yeah, and with me, I think I may have heard a piece of that when he did that.
Oh, that's pretty vile. Like,
But
you're talking about Michael Richards.
yeah, Michael Richards, yeah.
Yeah.
When he did that, but I mean, I'd have to go back and watch it again. I mean, I don't want to just like carte blanche like pass judge. But if I remember right, yeah, it was pretty ugly. And I don't think it was funny. I don't think there was anything. I think he was doing comedy prior to that. Then he had a heckler, and then he just kind of went off on.
Yeah, it was like
or
at the beginning of
whatever,
his set. I can't remember the time frame of it.
Oh, okay,
like
yeah.
it was just like somebody just started laying into him at the beginning of his set. And maybe he was having a bad day, but
Yeah.
that's a bad behavior that, like, I don't know. Maybe he didn't need to be completely canceled for, because I don't know. He might
Yeah.
still be doing comedy. I really stopped paying
I don't
attention
think
to
he
him after
is,
Seinfeld, because
I don't think he is.
I didn't think he was funny outside of Seinfeld, honestly. Like,
Yeah, I think he was funny on Seinfeld.
Like, that's a behavior that's not acceptable, like on an individual level. But like when somebody's, doing honest satirical like comedy, I have a hard time saying, "Oh, cancel this person." But I wanted to point out something before you get back. I feel like into what you're talking about. To me, like the canceling, or the what is it, the truth speak, or like basically telling comedians you can and can't say that. That's like, do you imagine Nazi Germany? Like some of the things, like I don't know if they even had stand-up comedians back then, but I imagine like part of how that devolved was basically you can and you can't say that. like maybe you know a little bit more about history. I just feel like that's like a movement toward like more of an authoritarian like approach by society. Like you can't.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is just like basis of like freedom of speech. There, you're talking about like sort of a 1A argument there, right? But
Yeah.
they, the idea of compelled speech is not free speech.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's Jordan Peterson. That I think that's the thing. I think that what vaulted him to fame was this whole fight for that against that mess up in Canada. And I think that what we see is the breakdown and the attack of speech and people's freedoms. Now, is a person really free to speak if you keep shutting them down, if you keep preventing them from being able to talk at all and stuff like that? No, I don't. I believe that it really is an attack on their rights when you're doing this. And just like like so many other rights, if you're preventing a person and taking away those rights in some way, even if you're doing it through a private organization, I still believe you're attacking their rights. I feel like it's very un-American. I feel like it doesn't move in the spirit of freedom. But really, to the core of your question, there, yeah, I think there's great evil when you're trying to tell people what they can and can't say.
Yeah.
People are going to say ugly things. People are going to say offensive things. People are going to say things that are racially insensitive, and they're going to say things that are ugly. Just sunlight's the best disinfectant. Just let them say it. Let them say what they're going to say. Let them put it out there, whatever. And people will probably gravitate away from it for the most part. They're going to move away from it because they're going to find it ugly, or other people are going to ridicule them, and make fun of them and stuff like that. And that's sort of kind of like the part of comedy, the free speech part of comedy, where like some of the best ideas get kind of bannered about and boxed about in the realm of comedy. And I think I believe that the best ideas end up rising to the top, and the things that people find funny end up rising to the top, and it has a way of sorting itself out. I don't think telling people they can say something or can't say something. I hate bringing up the Nazi stuff, but I mean that's definitely part of it. Anytime you have an authoritarian sort of
I guess.
bent,
Yeah.
there's many other great examples throughout history.
Authoritarianism,
Yeah, I
where
mean,
like you can't do this, you can't do that,
yeah,
and it just like you keep losing freedoms all the time.
You can't
It
you can't say Winnie the Pooh in China.
It
you know
starts
what I
a lot
mean?
of times with
So,
entertainment. If I remember, like, from my readings of history, I don't dwell too much in history except for to maybe learn some lessons from it. So I'm not the biggest knowledgeable person on history, but some of the bits and pieces, I feel like I don't know. Like you know a little bit more about history than I do, but I feel like probably when something's moving toward a more authoritarian stuff, it's like, oh, you can't do this, you can't enjoy this or that, but obviously there's a line, like
yeah,
people.
yeah.
And that's what I was going to get into. That's another thing where I could say that comedy steps out too far is when they can potentially like harm somebody, like your prank shows. I know some of those have went a little too far sometimes, and people have like been injured up to death, if I remember right.
Yeah.
When that guy, well, I don't know. Was that guy
Physical comedy.
Was that guy
physical
in
comedy.
Jackass that died? Was he doing like a prank or whatever when he died, or?
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with it, man.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it at all.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember the
with it
guy,
at
but I think a lot of those are just Hollywood. Like they're set up, like some of it. But I guess there's an argument to be made that people might, like children might act out some of the stuff that's on there, just as damaging as some of the TikTok challenges and stuff. Watching the prank shows because like you think that's okay, like
Yeah.
or they think that's okay, and there's nobody there to like tell them that's not okay. Like, what do you think about that? Like, do you think? I know that's a fine line of freedom of speech.
Well, with physical comedy and stuff like that, and people taking risk, if it's their own lives that they're risking and stuff like that, like it really is ultimately up to them. But I do believe that if you're putting it out there for like a lot of kids to watch, you need to really think about what you're doing. I do believe, because there's young impressionable minds, and the physical humor does really appeal to a lot of the younger audience,
Yeah.
and adults too. But you see people doing all kinds of funny challenges, whatever the latest what used to be Facebook, but now TikTok challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where these people do these crazy sort of trends, like eating the Tide Pods, and then it leads to this, that, and that. And everybody trying to one up
there
each
was
other.
a TikTok challenge not too long ago. It was pretty dangerous. I don't remember what it was though.
Yeah, and really honestly, I feel like that kind of thing. It's up to the individual, really. I don't think you can ever kind of get away from that. We can have our opinions on it. I just don't think it's going to necessarily go away, because I think there's always going to be a degree of like fads, you know what I mean, in anything. And now that the social media is a thing,
Yeah.
in our society now, I believe they're probably long after we're dead, they'll probably do some dumb challenge of like,
Yeah, I guess
painting
TikTok
yourself with
actually is a
paint.
pretty good example of humor, because I feel like people go there to laugh or like
Yeah.
be amused by like little like bursts of things. So
Yep.
so that probably is a good thing to look at, look over and kind of question, should we or shouldn't we?
Yep.
Just because we can doesn't necessarily mean we should,
Yeah.
because within the
Yeah.
constraints of laws, like that's when you like maybe push too far and the other side pushes too far or whatever. But
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like we can maybe talk about TikTok and that, like
Maybe another time, right?
yeah, there's a whole lot more to say about that. But
Well, I'm gonna have to cut it a little bit short here. I got a customer calling me, so and I believe that I might need to have to take care of this. So I think we've done about an hour now. Yep, I ain't done about an hour now anyway. So sorry to have to cut it so short, but if you guys would like and subscribe, we greatly appreciate it. And as Jeremiah would always say,
I challenge you, in anything important to you, think for yourself.
that's right. See you next time.
Bye.